Rain brings peace. The soft tapping on the window, the way everything slows down. It feels safe, like the world is on pause, and nothing bad can happen. But not all rain is peaceful. Sometimes, when it falls on the wrong place at the wrong time, it wakes things up. Things better left alone. Storms have a strange power. They don't just flood streets or shake trees. They shake memories, stir up silence, make shadows move in places where no one should be. An old house creaks louder. An empty room feels watched. And that comforting rain suddenly feels like a warning. The stories you're about to hear are true. Some were shared online. Some passed down from people who swore they lived through them. Every single one happened on a rainy night. Nights filled with thunder, flickering lights, and moments that never left the people who experienced them. If it's raining where you are right now, listen carefully. Rain has a way of hiding sounds. And sometimes, you don't hear what's coming until it's too late. These aren't made-up ghost tales. These are the kind of stories that make people double-check their doors. The kind that stay with you long after the rain stops. This video contains disturbing themes. Listener discretion is advised. Let's begin. Story 1. The Rain Under the Door. Approximate 1,100 to 1,200 words. Setting: a single woman renting an old house in a rural area during rainy season. She's recently moved in and is still unpacking. Inciting incident. First rainy night. She hears the sound of water under her bedroom door. Assumes a leak, but there's no water inside. Only wet footprints. Rising tension. Every night it rains, the water comes back. But it's always just outside her door. She starts blocking the door with towels. One night, the towels are gone by morning. Climax. On the fourth night, she decides to confront it. Sits awake with a flashlight. Rain pours harder. She hears squelching steps. The doorknob jiggles. A handprint appears on the fogged glass. Resolution. She screams, neighbors arrive. They find no one, but a trail of muddy, barefoot footprints lead to the woods. No one ever lived nearby. Rain makes everything feel calm. It taps softly on windows, fills the air with a clean, earthy smell, and wraps the world in quiet. Most people feel safe when it rains. It's the kind of weather that makes you stay in, relax, and listen to the sound of water falling outside. But not every rainy night is peaceful. Sometimes the rain feels too heavy, too quiet. It hides things. Sounds become distant. Streets go empty. Familiar places look strange in the dark, especially when the only light comes from flickering street lamps. Rain can muffle footsteps, can make you feel like you're the only one left, or like you're not alone at all. The stories in this video are based on true events. Some were shared online by people who still don't know what they saw or heard. Others have been told for years, passed from one person to another like a quiet warning. Each one happened on a rainy night, when most people were asleep and the world felt just a little too still. These are the nights when something feels off, when a knock at the door sounds sharper, when shadows stretch longer, when the rain doesn't feel like it's falling for peace, but for something else. These stories include strange and unsettling moments. Please be careful while listening. Story 2. The Attic Light. Approximate 1,100 to 1,200 words. Setting: a newlywed couple moves into an old countryside home during the rainy season. The attic has no electrical wiring, but during storms, a single light bulb glows faintly. They dismiss it as electrical weirdness at first. During each storm, the bulb flickers, and footsteps are heard above them. Husband checks multiple times, finds nothing. Wife swears she sees a figure watching her from the attic window one night. The couple sets up a camera, but it only records static and occasional whispers. During a thunderstorm, the wife disappears. The attic is now completely dark, no flickering. Husband eventually moves out, devastated. Years later, the house is abandoned, but during rainstorms, the attic window still glows faintly, and a figure can be seen watching. It had been raining for 2 days straight. The kind of rain that never lets up. Not heavy, just constant. A soft, steady pour that dulls every sound and soaks into everything. The kind of weather that makes you stay inside whether you want to or not. Daniel, a college sophomore, was stuck in his apartment with a pile of exams to study for. His building was old and the walls were thin, but he was used to the creaks and groans of the place. What he wasn't used to was the noise coming from above. They dismiss it as electrical weirdness at first. During each storm, the bulb flickers, and footsteps are heard above them. Husband checks multiple times, finds nothing. Wife swears she sees a figure watching her from the attic window one night. The couple sets up a camera, but it only records static and occasional whispers. During a thunderstorm, the wife disappears. The attic is now completely dark, no flickering. Husband eventually moves out, devastated. Years later, the house is abandoned, but during rainstorms, the attic window still glows faintly, and a figure can be seen watching. It had been raining for 2 days straight. The kind of rain that never lets up. Not heavy, just constant. A soft, steady pour that dulls every sound and soaks into everything. The kind of weather that makes you stay inside whether you want to or not. Daniel, a college sophomore, was stuck in his apartment with a pile of exams to study for. His building was old and the walls were thin, but he was used to the creaks and groans of the place. What he wasn't used to was the noise coming from above. Apartment 405 was supposed to be empty. The last tenant had moved out 3 weeks ago, and the landlord hadn't rented it again. But late into the first night of the storm, Daniel heard something up there. Slow, dragging sounds, like furniture being pulled across the floor. Then soft, muffled crying. Footsteps. Not the usual kind, these were heavy, uneven, like someone limping in circles. He brushed it off. Maybe the rain was playing tricks on him. Maybe water in the pipes. Maybe a stray cat in the ceiling. But the next night it got worse. Around 1 a.m., a wet plop hit his desk. He looked up. A small, dark spot was spreading on the ceiling. Dripping. Another drop fell, not clear water this time. It was dark. Red. He jumped up, wiped it with a tissue. It smeared like diluted blood. Freaked out, he called the building manager. The guy sounded half asleep and annoyed. 405's empty. No one's up there. I locked it myself. Daniel asked if maybe someone had broken in. The manager promised to check in the morning, then hung up. Daniel didn't sleep. The next day, the rain still hadn't stopped. He invited his friend Marcus over. He needed someone else to hear it, to prove he wasn't losing his mind. They sat in silence for a while, listening. Just when Marcus was about to speak, it started. The dragging. Slow. Then 3 footsteps. Then crying. Marcus went pale. Dude. Someone's definitely up there. Together, they grabbed a flashlight and headed up the stairwell. The hallway on the 4th floor was colder. Damp. The air smelled like mildew. Apartment 405's door stood slightly open. No light inside. They pushed the door gently. Creaked as it opened. The air was thick. Heavy. The apartment looked abandoned but not empty. There was old furniture draped in stained sheets. The floorboards were warped and soft from water damage. Mold covered parts of the wall. And on the far wall hung a single picture frame. Daniel walked up to it slowly. It was a family photo. 3 people smiling in what looked like the same apartment. But the figure on the left looked exactly like him. Same haircut. Same hoodie he was wearing now. He froze. Marcus, do you see that? See what? The photo. Yeah, it's gross. Moldy. The guy. In the hoodie. That's me. Marcus stared. There's no hoodie, man. That guy's wearing a suit. Daniel looked again. The hoodie was gone. Just a man in a black suit, his face blurry. Almost smudged. They both backed out quickly and shut the door. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., the dripping returned. Then drip, drip, drip faster. Then a crack. He sat up just as a long split formed in the ceiling above his bed, tearing open like skin. A thick mix of black mud, hair, and soaked paper rained down onto him. The smell was awful, like rot, like something had been buried in the ceiling. Screaming, he grabbed his keys and ran out of the apartment in his pajamas. He never went back. The building manager called him the next day, confused, angry. But Daniel didn't care. He moved in with his cousin across town and transferred his lease. A year later, on the anniversary of the storm, he read a small article in the local paper. Fire destroys apartment unit in Stormview complex. Apartment 405 had burned down in the middle of the night. No cause determined. They said the fire was strange. It didn't spread to the units beside it. It was as if the flames had only wanted that one room. But whenever it rains, the new tenants below 405 say they still hear footsteps. It had been raining without pause for 2 days. The sky was a dull, unbroken gray, and the sound of rain had become so constant that Daniel barely noticed it anymore. He was a college student, stuck inside his cramped apartment, trying to prepare for midterms. Outside, water pooled along the sidewalks, and thunder rumbled far in the distance, low and lazy. Daniel lived on the 3rd floor of an old brick building. It wasn't much, but it was close to campus and cheap enough to fit a student's budget. The only strange thing was the apartment above his, 405. It had been empty for weeks. The last tenant moved out suddenly, and the landlord hadn't filled it yet. Daniel knew this because he asked. He even joked about moving into it for more space. That night, as he reviewed flashcards and listened to the rain, he heard something above him. It started as a faint dragging sound, like furniture being pulled across the floor. Then footsteps, slow and heavy, pacing back and forth. And then, a sound he couldn't place at first. A soft, muffled sobbing. He paused his music, tilted his head toward the ceiling. The noises continued. The crying grew sharper. He texted the building manager. Thought 405 was empty? The reply came a few minutes later. It is. Locked it myself. No one's up there. Daniel stared at the screen. The dragging sound continued above him, now joined by a sharp creaking, like someone walking slowly across loose floorboards. Around midnight, a droplet hit his desk. He looked up. A small circle had formed on the ceiling. Another drop followed, then another. He stood up and placed a bowl underneath. The water wasn't clear. It had a reddish tint. It looked wrong. He backed away and took a photo, then sent it to the manager. No reply this time. The next day, the rain hadn't let up. The leak had stopped for now, but a dark stain remained. Daniel called his friend Marcus, told him what he heard. Marcus didn't seem convinced, but agreed to come over that night. They sat in silence in Daniel's room for nearly an hour, just listening to the steady rain and tapping of water outside. Then footsteps. Above them, clear as day. Drag, creak, step, step, drag. Then crying, like someone had been crying for hours, weak, tired, empty. Marcus looked up, eyes wide. You weren't kidding. Daniel stood. Let's go see for ourselves. They grabbed flashlights and umbrellas and made their way to the 4th floor. The hallway was darker than usual. A light flickered near the end. Apartment 405 stood quiet. The door was slightly open, just enough to show darkness behind it. They hesitated. Daniel slowly pushed it open. The smell hit first. Mold, wet wood, and something else, something sour. Inside, the apartment looked like it had been abandoned for years. The wallpaper peeled. Furniture sat under dirty white sheets. Water dripped from the corners. Mold had crept up the walls in thick green streaks. Daniel stepped in slowly. Marcus stayed by the door. There was no electricity, but moonlight filtered in through a cracked window. In the living room, a single framed photo hung crooked on the wall. Daniel walked over and stared at it. A family stood in front of a couch, 2 adults, 1 teenager. The teenager was wearing a gray hoodie. Daniel's hoodie, the same one he was wearing now. His heart pounded. Marcus, look at this. Marcus joined him. Yeah? Old photo. The kid. That's me. Marcus squinted. What? No dude. That guy's in a suit. Looks nothing like you. Daniel blinked. The figure was now blurry. The hoodie was gone. They left without speaking another word. That night, Daniel tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he imagined the figure in the photo watching him. Around 3 a.m., he woke up to the sound of dripping again. Then more, and more. He sat up just as a large crack ripped through the ceiling above his bed. His heart pounded. Marcus! Look at this. Marcus joined him. Yeah? Old photo. The kid. That's me. Marcus squinted. What? No dude. That guy's in a suit. Looks nothing like you. Daniel blinked. The figure was now blurry. The hoodie was gone. They left without speaking another word. That night, Daniel tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he imagined the figure in the photo watching him. Around 3 a.m., he woke up to the sound of dripping again. Then more. And more. He sat up just as a large crack ripped through the ceiling above his bed. But apartment 405 no longer exists. Soft rain continues. Thunder rumbles quietly in the background. The narrator's voice is calm, thoughtful. Rain is supposed to calm us, slow us down, wrap us in a quiet world where we can think, dream, rest. But in these stories, rain did something else. It became a veil, a soft curtain pulled over the eyes of the world, hiding things the daylight couldn't. In each of these moments, the bus stop, the attic, the apartment above, something waited just beyond what we could see. Something that came closer when the streets emptied, when the lights dimmed, when the rain grew loud enough to cover the sound of a second set of footsteps. What if the rain doesn't just fall? What if it reveals? What if it wakes something up? Maybe we find comfort in storms because we don't realize what they cover. Or maybe we do, and we just try to forget. But remember this, rain brings peace, until it falls on places where peace doesn't live. Thunder rolls softly. A few seconds of silence. If you enjoyed these true horror stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel grow and keeps the lights on, especially during stormy nights. And one last thing, never ignore a light in the attic.